So I have a 2012 Subaru Impreza naturally aspirated 2.0 liter. It is a 5-speed manual, 411,000 kilometers on it. I do have a 0420 catalytic code that I can live with, but I received a 2005 and a 2006 that popped up just this week. So I was cleaning the contacts up, doing all the grounds, cleaning grounds at the back of the motor. This motor has been swapped out about 30,000 kilometers ago. So I was cleaning the contacts, and two of the contacts are way down right there underneath the intake throttle body. And so I figured I might as well pull the throttle body, because the 2005 is the intake controllers, runner controllers that are right here, operated by the actuator. And so I'm a little bit ahead here, because as I was removing the intake to be able to clean up those contacts, I did notice something that I found on one forum but no videos. So I'm going to continue on removing the intake. So I'll have to remove all the wiring harness connections, as well this pipe right here I have to remove, that goes into the bottom of the upper intake, so that I can remove it and shoot another video once I have a section of it and join it together. So I don't have the tool that removes the fuel injection rail, so I've left the fuel line attached, and I had to remove this heat. I think it's part of an EGR, so 2 bolts in the back here, because this goes up inside the bottom of the intake, or the upper intake. While I'm at it, I'm going to change my PCV valve. This one probably has about 60,000 kilometers on it. So the intakes I have cleaned up yesterday. I spent the day inside cleaning these up. This is the driver's side. Control valve operates these butterflies. Open them up during acceleration, close them up for emissions during warm-up and low speeds. What I did find was on the passenger side, so I had a 2005 and a 2006. One was stuck in the closed position. Passenger side was stuck in the closed position. What I found was these 2 little screws here had loosened off, and so the butterfly was loose, and it was creating a sound almost like a timing sound, like a timing tick. When I pulled the intake manifold off, the plenum, I noticed that those screws were loose, so I was worried about them dropping down into the cylinder. So I went ahead, pulled them off, cleaned them up. I was unable in the car to remove the controller module. The bolts were seized right up, so I used an impact driver to be able to remove them. So it made it easier for them. What I did find when I took them off, I was worried about the screws dropping down into the intake. The back side of the screws, can't really see them with the lighting in here, but the back sides are stamped, so they can get loose, but they won't drop down into your cylinder. So these are all cleaned up, ready to go back on. The control modules on the end, one was stuck in the closed position, one was stuck in the open position. I found that the passenger one that was in the closed position, I think the control valve was defective on it. I was able to turn the wheels. I was able to freely open the butterflies and close. These ones, you put pressure on them and you can slowly open them, so I think they're working right. These control valves are off of my previous motor. I had stripped them. So they do have lots of miles on them, but at 200 and some odd bucks each, it's definitely worth hanging on to them and see if they clear my codes. I'm going to set up out at the car, so next time you see me I'll be at the car. So I'm outside. It is pretty windy out, so I'm going to not set the camera up to record the whole time. Looking down in, there is a diverter, fuel injector on that side that sprays the fuel down in, the air mixture to the right hand side. So I am going to remove these little diverters. They come out easily, slide right out. And I'm going to stuff some paper towel down in there and clean the gasket surfaces off, and then come back to it. This is the passenger's top of the cylinder head. So I'll clean them up and come back and show you. So I've cleaned all the gasket material off. Pretty windy here today. I'm doing it outside, no garage. Cleaned all the gasket material off, and then I used a brake clean to clean it all up. The little diverters that slide down in, also took them out, cleaned them all up. They weren't carboned up too bad. So I'm just getting ready, install the gasket. I bought a Subaru gasket. That is the part number for it. So I'll get that started and I'll come back. So I got the lower intake installed. 18.4 is the Subaru spec on the torque spec. There's only 3 bolts holding it down, so I did about 5 pounds on each, and I went to 10, then I went to 15, then topped it up to 19 because it kind of felt a little weak. But I didn't want to over torque it and I didn't want to under torque it. So the passenger side one is on. I did want to point out that while I was in here, I did change the PCV valve. A bit of a bugger to change anyway, so I figured I'd do it. Those were the grounds that got me here in the first place. I might note that the PCV valve, when I took it out and shook it, it was plugged. So good timing on changing that. Things are coming along. I have bolted the plenum back on. 14 pounds is what I found on different forums and that for the plenum to the intake. I said that I didn't have a fuel removal tool for the fuel injection. I have ones for bigger ones, but not for this one. So what I did is I removed these plastic clips here to remove the fuel lines that are tucked up underneath the plenum, and they go into the top of the fuel injector rail. They were nice and easy to pop out, they pop back in. So anyway, it is bolted back in. I'm connecting wires now, doing the final torquing on the back bolts. This bracket is loose, which is from the transmission through to the motor, so I'll tighten that up, connect up the rest of my vacuum lines, and put my intake back together, air box back together, and then report back then. Well, it's back together. Just came back from a drive. Before, it would throw the code of 2005 2006 within 15-20 feet of the house. So it would show that one controller was open in the stuck position and one was in the closed stuck position. Ended up the passenger side, like I said, the screw was loose, or 2 screws were loose on the rear butterfly, and that control valve that operates it was defective. So I have replaced them with the ones that were from my previous motor, so used controllers. Car ran good, ran a few blocks, concession blocks around, and everything seems to be fine. I did a scan. I imagine the 420 code for the catalytic converter will still come back, but for now, the 2005 and the 2006 appear to have been cleared, and I will post this video if it was successful in, say, a month's time. Thanks.